Tonight's budget should not be compared to last year's budget, which was built on the recession we never had. If Wayne Swan and Kevin Rudd are trying to claim credit for higher revenues, then it is a flawed argument. Last year they were forecasting unemployment rate of 8.5%, it's 5.3%. Last year they were forecasting negative economic growth. We are now at trend economic growth. It is no economic miracle that we are not in a recession. It is an economic miracle that Kevin Rudd did not take us into recession. I say to you, tonight we will be looking at the numbers that matter. There is only one number the government controls in the budget, and that is the amount of money they spend. And we will be looking at that number because so many of the other numbers, like so much of what Kevin Rudd has to say, is built on a wish and a prayer. Last year, the numbers were so out of sync with what actually happened. The believability tonight will be in Kevin Rudd promising to spend money. I, on the 31st of March, wrote an op-ed for the Financial Review, which I'd all commend you to get, and that op-ed forecast that a budget surplus could be delivered in 2011-12, and that is basically on existing assumptions about the improvements in the labour market, the fact that unemployment benefits didn't have to be paid out to 125,000 people, and that company profits did not tank in the way the government was forecasting. Last year, the government built a budget on gloom and doom. This year, they're going to build a budget on a wish and a prayer. And I would urge everyone to look at the numbers that matter tonight, which is how much the government's going to spend.
So if the coalition were to win this year's election, would you have a surplus in 11-12?
We would move faster, but I mean, obviously, David, I want to have a look at how much the government is spending tonight. That's everything. In the MyEFO, in the mid-year economic updates, even though the government had an improvement of about $40 billion in revenue, they increased their expenditure by $4 billion on the last budget. Tonight, the test will be how much are they forecast to spend last budget, how much have they actually spent, and how much are they going to continue to spend.
So you don't agree with Don Randall, who says it's going to take decades for the budget to get back into surplus?
Well, I can promise you this. I stand by my comments. The Wayne Swan will never deliver a surplus budget.
How concerned are you about this new mining tax being put? Obviously, it's not in this election cycle, but it is in the forward estimates, and it hasn't gone through the Parliament. Do you see holes there?
Well, of course it is. The Rudd mining tax is a tax on hope. The Rudd mining tax is a tax for tomorrow, yet they're banking it today. They're building a budget surplus on the back of a tax that has not even come into play, that is hoping that the commodity boom will continue in 4 years' time. It would be extraordinary now, let me go back. Policy decisions are usually incorporated into budgets, and treasurers usually take a balanced and measured approach to policy decisions that have failed in the Parliament. And from time to time, Peter Costello, when he'd failed to get legislation through the Parliament, he had to rule it out from the budget, because the budget's based on policy and not legislation. The important point here is tonight we'll be looking to see whether they try and incorporate changes to private health insurance. That'll be a wish and a prayer. Tonight we will see whether they incorporate $9 billion from the mining tax per year. That will be a wish and a prayer. Tonight we will see whether they are going to maintain their forecast levels of spending. That you can be sure of.
Mr Hockey, the government has been quite unusually this year. It hasn't leaked so much of what's in the budget. Do you think that means there'll be some savage cuts tonight? Do you think that people should be bracing themselves for spending cuts, or do you think that the faster expected return to surplus will be from revenue growth and high taxes? What
interested me is they're talking about billions of dollars of new spending, but hundreds of $millions of savings. That says it all, I think. Look at their language carefully. Hundreds of millions of dollars of savings, billions of dollars of new spending, particularly on health.
Labor would say that we're in a very very different position from the last year's budget because of their stimulus packages and how swiftly and decisively they acted on that. You don't give
You're
them
even
any
repeating
credit.
their words.
I'm just playing the devil's
No, go for it.
advocate.
Yeah.
So, well, here's a free kick. What's your response?
Well, we have said consistently there are a number of reasons why Australia did not go into recession. Firstly, we did not have a banking collapse, and that came about because of good prudential supervision, proper capitalisation, and overall the Australian banks and financial institutions were in good shape. Secondly, we said we were the major beneficiary of a stimulus package in China. A demand for our minerals was extraordinary. Terms of trade were more generous to Wayne Swan and Kevin Rudd than they were to the Howard government. And out of that, the mining boom, the golden goose, delivered, and now they want to strangle it. The third factor was Australians have variable home loan rates, whereas most other countries have fixed home loan rates. Most Australians on variable. So when the Reserve Bank cut interest rates by 425 basis points, it had a massive impact in supporting household budgets. Fourthly, if you spend $89 billion in stimulus measures, some of it will hit the market. There's no doubt about that. Our argument wasn't about having a stimulus. Our argument was it was way too much money. And we've been proven absolutely damn right on this. When you think of the surplus that Kevin Rudd is promising tonight sometime in the future, think of the lost opportunities with pink bats and school halls and $900 cash splashes from high-flying helicopters.
If they do return this budget to surplus much quicker than expected, are you willing to give them any credit
It's
for that?
not expected. Can I tell you, Latika, who's it expected by? I mean, it's
previous
expected,
forecasts.
well, previous forecasts last year were framed around Australia going into recession. Australia did not go into recession for a whole lot of good reasons. So it's a fraud to claim that they are delivering an earlier surplus because of their hard work. It is a complete fraud on the Australian people, but it's totally in sync with everything else they say. I mean, maybe this is the greatest, let me say this, the greatest moral, economic and social challenge for Kevin Rudd is to be honest with the Australian people about the budget numbers tonight.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Ockey.
Thank you, guys.